Shell and Vitol accused of prolonging Ukraine war with sanctions. Loophole.
Here's a summary of the article.
Oil company Shell and energy trader Vitol have been accused of prolonging the war in Ukraine by exploiting a loophole in the EU sanctions regime to bring products derived from Russian oil into Europe through Turkey. Refineries in India and Turkey have ramped up their imports from Russia since the start of the war and have been accused of providing a backdoor for Russian oil exports to be refined, rebadged and exported around the world. Analysis of data from commodity tracker Capella by non-profit group Global Witness found that Shell had imported more than 600,000 barrels of refined products into the Netherlands from Turkish refineries known to import Russian oil since the 5th of December. Shell announced its intent to withdraw from its involvement in all Russian hydrocarbons last March, shortly after the outbreak of war in Ukraine. In a letter to new Shell chief executive Wael Sawan, seen by The Guardian, Ustenko acknowledged Shell had not broken any sanctions but said importing products from Turkish refineries, awash with Russian oil, flies in the face of Shell's pledge to withdraw from its involvement in Russian crude oil and petroleum products, and exploits a loophole in the EU sanctions regime. A Shell spokesperson said, "We remain fully committed to our pledge and have stopped purchases of Russian origin crude, as well as cargoes of refined products exported from Russia. It is a decision we made with conviction, carefully aligned with government guidance and in compliance with sanctions, which do not exclude purchasing products refined from Russian crude in third countries where this is legally permitted. We continue with our policy of minimizing purchases of Russian origin products, in full compliance with all applicable legislation and regulation in relation to sanctions," Vitol said, adding that it continued to have a presence in Ukraine and intended to invest in the country long term.
This post received a score of 24,000, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
If there is terror, war or just plain genocide somewhere on the planet, Shell is involved.
That is correct.
Don't forget their sponsoring of the apartheid regime in South Africa by delivering oil in secret during the oil boycott and the murder of thousands in Indonesia post-independence, where they supported the murderous regime.
Whoa. Let's link those events to. Any help?
Apartheid, Indonesia. MS Word Doc Alert, University Document, Bonus, Shell and US cop lobby groups.
Thanks for all the links. Too bad news like this doesn't go viral in this day and age like books in Florida libraries do. Would be nice if everyone boycotted Shell globally. Instead, people cheer 'em on with Ferrari's F1 team and similar sponsorships.
The Shell boycotts of the 1980s were not all that successful as well. What had a much bigger impact was that people started torching the gas stations. Nonviolent resistance as the proper way to protest is a dogma that those in power really approve of.
Greater than nonviolent resistance as the proper way to protest is a dogma that those in power really approve of. Sure is. They get to bash your skull with nightsticks and mace your face after. Then they lock you up and strip you of dignity.
From the article, edited repeatedly for formatting.
Erdogan has always been a piece of shit and will always be a piece of shit. India's government ain't much better.
Look guys, we understand your concerns about dying civilians, authoritarian regimes, rape, genocide, the destruction of an entire country's infrastructure, and an unstable security situation in an entire continent, but hear me out, there's money to be made. Money. You like money? We sure do.
Greater than you like money? And that's where the dissent stops. The vast majority of people are greedy scumbags just looking for an out for their greed. We've been breeding for greed for generations. It's just easier to be greedy and reproduce than not.
I kind of feel like not being greedy these days is a one-way ticket to the poorhouse and death.
Shell has always been a supervillain.
It even has its own shell company?
I'm ready for all of the big oil companies to be nationalized in order to reduce their continuing harm to the rest of the world.
That's it. If a company is too big to be controlled by one government, it should be split into smaller, manageable parts or nationalized. Big oil, big pharma, big finance, you name it.
Greater than smaller, manageable parts it was. Over the last 100+ years, they have slowly reconsolidated themselves into the megacorp that the US had broken up under the Sherman Act back in 1911.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.